Welcome back to the Mackem in the Middle podcast, the first of two podcasts discussing the playoff semi-final. First leg was played at home and did result in a 2-1 Sunderland win. We went 1-0 down from the only kind of situation you'd expect us to concede a goal from a corner, but 2 goals and we are 1 foot into the final at Wembley, John, which, given the position, we've said this a few times now this season, no one expects us to be there. We shouldn't be here. The fact we got in the playoffs is a miracle. The fact that we're heading into the second leg of the playoff semi-final with a 2-1 lead, especially given our home form, actually, is even better. And of course, that's actually ended Luton's 14-game unbeaten streak as well.
Yeah, the way the season's gone, it's a fantastic achievement. I've seen a few sort of people on Twitter sort of kicking off, they're saying we've got a £40 million, Diallo, and, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and, Jack Clark cost this amount of money, and, those things are, all well and good, but it's, can you get them in a team, and can you get them functioning, to a consistent level, to actually, this is a horrible league to get out of. We know that, if you don't go up, you look at Huddersfield, just about survived. I think they were in the playoff final last year. It's one of them. So for us to be in that, in even in the running, we did say, there's not a lot of pressure on us because we shouldn't be there. With the injuries we had, and the team we're playing with the makeshift back 3 or 4, whatever you want to call it. We, technically we shouldn't be there, but in the face of adversity, we are. And to be fair, on merit, we do deserve to be there. So, every other club can shove their little rhetoric any way they want, but we deserve to be there. And that, the pressure is off, but we're obviously, we're flourishing, to a good standard, and we're, Luton are no mugs. They've obviously got a certain style. That's not a criticism in any way. They're a very physical team, but everyone was going, well, they're unbeaten in 14 and we've beat them at home, whereas, we're not very good at home. We know that. I'd be more confident with the away leg. I don't know why, playing away from home, but it's, it's just one of them. So, we all know at the moment it's amazing the way, obviously it's a long way to go. We've got a tough 90 minutes or whatever to do down there. But it's by no means finished in any way, but, it's amazing what's happening.
Yeah. And the same people that are saying that Sunderland have Ahmad on loan, the best keeper in the league, the best centre-back from last season from Millwall, we've signed him for an extortionate amount of money, apparently, which I think was about 2 million-ish. The same people that, 9 months ago, when some Sunderland fans were saying, we should be challenging for the playoffs, we should be doing this, should be doing that, were then saying, don't be so arrogant, don't be so confident. Yes, you're a big club and you've got the facilities and the players, but you shouldn't be up there. You don't deserve to be up there. And then now we are there. It's that you were always going to be there because you're a big club and you have these players and these facilities, and it just doesn't make too much sense, really.
No, it's you can swing it anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. If you go and smash, the bottom team 10-0, it's, well, you should have smashed them. There's always a narrative. Doesn't matter what you do, there will always be one. And, I think this season was, of course, it was about consolidation. That's all we want to do. Say if we got to the Premier League, that would be, just to stay up. That would be the remit. But if you do go ahead, I'm not sure it's a surprise. Because I think we always, we did have the players, and we do play a certain way that we have been maybe not always seen, but we do play, sort of really good football. And it has, it maybe started with, a bit of Lee Johnson laying maybe some sort of framework in there, sort of carried on by, Alex Neil, and then, with more tools added to it, and, with Tony Mowbray at the helm, it's one of those things that just fit into position. And there's plenty of results in the league that should have gone against us. They didn't. We haven't been as consistent as maybe we wanted to be, especially at home. We find ourselves in that position, and then you get a bit of confidence and belief. And, with such a young team, you don't have, they are fearless. You don't have the pressures, and, that they want to go out and they want to play football and they want to express themselves. And if you've got that in a happy camp, these are the sorts of things that can happen, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So, you know, I saw all the rhetoric that came out yesterday, and like you say, oh, you know, you should be there because of how big you are. You know, 6 months ago it was, well, you know, you're very lucky to be there, or you know, you should just be consolidating. There's always a rhetoric. It's one of those things you have to accept, but ultimately, you worry about yourselves. We're here at the moment. We're doing the business so far.
Yeah.
You know, if we get, you know, I don't want it to happen, but if we get thumped Tuesday, it's, you know, it was a very, very good season all round. If we go through again, brilliant. Take it in our stride. You know, when we go one more.
Yeah. And on the game now, Kyle, we'll get onto the 11th minute very shortly. But the first 10 minutes are always quite an interesting game when the pressure's on Sunderland, because as you see against, I think, Watford, there's been a few other games this season where, you know, the pressure has been on Sunderland. The first 10 minutes have kind of been against us. But the opening 10 minutes of this game, you know, we got the ball down, played it quickly, got in behind them, and, you know, had a couple of chances to at least get a shot on goal in them 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty refreshing to see, like we've talked about with our home form and whatnot. You know, sometimes you can tell we're playing a little bit too almost frantically. I think a couple of games ago we couldn't even complete a pass like 10 yards, or they're going out of bounds or whatever. Yeah. And you could just tell they were up for the occasion. From what I understand, the atmosphere was incredible, right? I mean, even watching it on TV.
Oh,
that was,
according to a certain Luton fan, it was shit, but that's what happens when you lose against Sunderland, isn't it? You always say the atmosphere shit, but
well, and like we've discussed, like it would probably be even better for away fans, honestly, if we found a way to get them down to the lower sections, like, you know, most other. That's a discussion for another pod. But I think we came out with a plan, and just like you said, we were absolutely fearless. You know, that we definitely played our style of football in those first 10 minutes, and then just kind of got unlucky as the 11th minute struck, as I'm sure we'll discuss as well.
Yeah, we will, because in the 11th minute, John, we go 1-0 down, and like I said right at the start, it is the exact situation that I said, you know, everyone in the stadium, Luton fans included, knew that if we were going to concede, it was probably going to be from this. And I even said at the time, this is 1-0, and I think it was the first corner that Luton got. And, you know, it wasn't direct from the corner. The ball comes in. I think Morris is at the back post, heads it across. It's a good save in the end from Patterson. But, you know, again, we said this against Watford. We said it, you know, for quite a few times towards the end of the season, when you don't have anyone above, you know, 5'10", really, possibly even 5'9" in the box, bar obviously Ekwa. You know, corners, set pieces, anything like that, especially against teams like Luton, are always going to lead to something, whether it's a chance, whether it's a goal, something along them lines. It's always going to happen.
Yeah, you know, they're all massive guys, aren't they? In that Luton
all
team,
with very strange headbands on as well.
Yeah, they obviously got a 4-for-5, a 5-for-4 deal on them, because, you know, most of them were wearing them, to be fair, which, you know, whatever. But yeah, the goal. It probably sounds really harsh, but I was quite critical of the defending, to be fair. I think, you know, sometimes I think the way we mark, sometimes we mark to maybe make it hard for them to win the first ball, but accepting they're going to win it, but then try to win the second and the third ball. And I don't think we did. I think I counted, there were 6 times, I think, where we could have, or we maybe should have, you know, cleared the ball.
I think there was one time as well. I think when the initial header comes in, I think O'Nien goes to head it away, and I think it hits Pritchard as well.
Yeah, there were a few of them. You know, Pritchard and Gooch go for the same ball. You know, it hits the post and comes out. And again, the matey boy who scores, I couldn't tell you his name. But you know, he's sort of free. You know, if you've got someone stood on him, he hasn't got that tap in. So I was probably a little bit critical, and maybe that's the way we've dealt with you know, teams who are good on set pieces, you know, in recent weeks. Is, you know, can we nullify them, you know, winning the first ball, but can we pick up the second and the third? And that's normally fine. But there was 6, I think I counted 6 opportunities for us to clear the ball, or at least get something on the ball to get it away. But it's just, you know, it eventually is going to happen. It's just the, you know, the way it goes. But like, you know, it's how you respond, you know, after those goals, because you know, you're gonna concede 1 or 2 of them, you know, every now and again. And it's how you bounce back after them.
Yeah. But after that goal, Kyle, I said in the podcast against Preston that if we do go 1-0 down, the atmosphere could turn a little bit, because the people that have turned up, because it's a big occasion, big game, expecting Sunderland to put in a big performance. Could have quite easily changed, but it didn't. The atmosphere was still good. Players very well and truly with the fans behind them. And, after that chance that Luton had where they scored from, barring, a couple of other set pieces and this, that and the other, the rest of the game, especially the first half, and then obviously we'll get on to the second half, was largely dominated by Sunderland playing the football that we know they can.
Yeah, the crowd definitely woke up there. And it's not the first time we've seen that either, home or away. I don't know the exact number, but I feel like they have gone down early in quite a few games, and response has been really incredible, from and we really just saw players get stuck in. I think after that first goal where Ekwa, really stepped into it. I think it was right around the 20-minute mark, had a beautiful tackle just kind of right outside, I think even in the box to prevent another kind of scoring opportunity for Luton. Like he just completely, it's not like we battered them. I mean, they still actually had, a few chances here and there, but it was just the organization. I think that's what was most impressive in this first half is, hey, even if we do go one goal down, especially because, it came via a corner, which is just like, there's nothing we can do really. It was just good to see that every player, even though they're playing out of position, especially along the back line, knew what their roles, and they didn't overcommit. They didn't, double team players or anything like that. Everybody just said to a man, hey, cover your space, and we're going to stick in this. And they did. But yeah, like I said, I really felt like that, not that we needed any waking up, because, I felt like we were on it from the start, but it's really where we settled in, I think, and really used the crowd to our advantage. And it was just really smart with how we possessed the ball. And like I said, that's really when I started noticing Ekwa come into form, really. And and then the rest, the rest of the first half was really a joy to watch. Just entertaining, honestly, up and down on both ends.
Yeah. And it was Sunderland, they got the next goal, John, and, you talk about goal of the season. Obviously, it was João Pedro that won it. Sunderland could have won it twice in the last 2 games. Obviously, the Amad Diallo goal against Preston, which obviously set us on the way to making the playoffs. And then 39 minutes into the first half, just before half-time, an almost identical goal. We get the free kick, which, Luton never learned from the entire game because they kept fouling us in, similar situations and positions. Pritchard with the easiest assist he'll probably ever get in his career. Hands on hips when he passed it, in fact. Lays it off to Diallo, and, that is why he is so highly rated and why it will hurt so much if we don't go up and can't keep him.
Yeah, I've run out of words to obviously, to describe him. What a fantastic player. And, Pritchard is almost, I'll just roll it and I'll let you do the rest. And I know it's going to happen. He's sort of almost on his way over to the crowd almost when he rolls it. So I like to say hands on the hips, and he's ready to celebrate. I think Sky even did the at half time, and they showed him, Amad warming up, and again, literally just pinging him in the top corner. So it's no fluke, and we've got so many good technical players that are finding those tiny margins. Like if you watch, I think one player sort of runs out when the ball's touched, and, you can just see perfectly where to put the ball, and we can talk about the way keepers are going or, turning or stretching or whatever. No one's saving that. He's, like you say, the goals just keep getting better. And, the EFL have gone very early. I did point that out to him yesterday, very early on the goal of the season, because, I think we've probably got the top, 10. Arguably, the top 10. So, and to not really have any in there, it's a strange one. Obviously, the EFL are not fans of actual football. But, that's the way it goes. But what, I think even the quality of the goal, I think it even sinks Luton a little bit, and they think, wow, even they're a bit like, fucking hell, what a bit of quality. And I think that does deflate them a little bit just by the sheer, I'm not even sure you should probably shoot from there, but, if the kid can do it, let him do it. And, like we're saying, a fantastic goal. And I think there's been about 100 million views of it on Twitter. I can testify now that, 999 of those, are mine. because
Yeah.
I've watched it, so many times, and what a finish. And it's obviously gone both ways. Like I said, it's deflated Luton, but it probably lifted the roof off the stadium. I don't know what the Luton fans talking about, saying it was quiet, because it was electric, and like you say, it's killed them and almost galvanized us to obviously kick on.
Yeah. And if the Luton fans thought it was quiet at that point, Kyle, they would be very much in the wrong to say it was quiet later on in the second half when Sunderland went 2-1 up. And Jack Clarke, who I thought had a poor game in kind of quotation marks, because we know how much he can do, and he still got at his man, still had the beating of him quite a lot, but I don't think he was involved as much as we perhaps would have liked him to be. But the one time that it did matter, he gets the ball on the left hand side. It's actually from a short corner originally. He cuts in on his right, 2 defenders on him again, as that has been the case for months now, because people know what he's going to do, and they still can't stop him. He fires it across goal, and Trey Hume's there, very similar to Sirkin in the
West Brom game.
West Brom, that was it. In terms of why on earth is Trey Hume in the 6-yard box? But he's there, gets on the end of the cross from Clarke, and the header is, as perfect as a header could be.
It absolutely was, and yeah, the eruption there, like I said, on the watching it on TV, I mean, you could just hear it. And that's even just going back to the Ahmad goal. The thing I love too is there's lots of pictures of kind of the goal going in, and just looking at the faces of everyone in the crowd, like it's just utter disbelief. Same thing with this goal. And just to rewind it, just right before this goal, the corner was set up from a really good run from Patrick Roberts, and I think that he had a couple of these, his typical winding runs where he's just in and out of these players, and it's just so difficult to stop. And everyone talks about Luton's size and things like that. The one thing that big players hate is when a little player with the ball at their feet can just even and out. And of course, you're going to foul, just going to get hacked. In this sort of situation, like we said, it went out for a corner, which we generated quite a few from. And yeah, Clarke in double teams obviously know that he's one of our best players this season. And typically does require 1 to 2 defenders, on him to prevent him from driving toward the line. This is a good example. He, cuts in on his right, crosses in. Yeah, Trey Hume has just been, what an unsung hero he's been. We have the glitz and the glam, the flash and the flare and all that, but just nobody expected anything from him, even earlier in the season. I mean, earlier in the season, he was having a hard time getting in. There was talks about him going out on loan, and just to see these players step up and just the confidence, and you can just see it, and just the passion too with the fans. Him running over, all the other players, just everyone just hugging, and just it was one of those moments that thank God for Diaz from Blackburn for giving us this opportunity to see these types of goals, because if it wasn't for him, honestly, we probably wouldn't have this game and see these goals. But nonetheless, God, it was an awesome, just a great goal, perfect timing too. Kind of came right as obviously 60 minutes in or so, but it really set up the stage for the rest of the game for us.
It did, and it does finish 2-1 in that game, and I know that's quite a short summary of the game, but obviously there's still a second leg to go, John. So essentially it's pretty much 45 minutes of a 90-minute game that's been played so far, and we all know how much can change in the second half of football. And of course, this won't just be any second half. It's going to be 90 minutes. It's going to be away from home, a terribly small stadium, which will definitely play a role. You're going to have, I think, about 10,000 people there. Obviously, only 1,000 Sunderland fans. Everything's so close to the pitch. Everything's so tight. It's going to be, an atmosphere that Luton fans will want to try and get at the Sunderland players and kind of unnerve them, force them into mistakes. And it's up to Sunderland, it's up to Mowbray and the players to make sure that it doesn't get to them, because 2-1 is a good lead, but a very dangerous lead, because if we go to Luton, and I don't think we're going to sit back, quite frankly, because we don't have any defenders, but if we concede that first goal within the first 15-20 minutes, that 90-minute performance at home somewhat goes out the window.
Yeah, I could probably counteract that. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a massively tough game, and I've seen a lot of people say, oh well, Sunderland fans think it's already done. Far from it. We know we're like I say, half time in the tie. Things I would counteract to that is obviously Luton need to come at us. I think that's going to play into our hands a little bit, because we've got the players to spring them. and absolutely get at them on the counter, and they weren't like that at all. Secondly, yes, obviously Luton are going to try and make it, as horrible a place as they can, but arguably, I've been in crowds where there's been 900 Sunderland fans, and there's been sort of 20,000 home fans, and you wouldn't notice the difference. You could arguably say that the Sunderland fans made more noise, and it will be electric in that away end, and it'll be bouncing, and the players will want to put a performance. I'm not saying we're going to go there and play for the draw, but the onus is on, as a basis, don't lose the tie. If you don't lose the game, you go through. Obviously these are, it could go either way. Like you say, it's a tight stadium, but it doesn't matter how big the pitch is. We play lovely, tight, intricate football. It's going to be a battle down there. We might have a few walking wounded again. You never know who's coming in and out. But it's a weird one, because I still fancy us to go there and get a result. Like I say, they have to come out at us.
I'd probably favour Sunderland as well. The fact that Luton are 1 down in this tie, not just for the obvious reason that technically we're 1-0 up in general, but because if Luton don't come out and attack us, then Sunderland get to the final. It's that simple. Luton have to go for it. Luton have to try and get the first goal, and so long as Sunderland stay resolute at the back, Luton trying to push players forward will then create more space than it did in the opening leg for the likes of Diallo, for Roberts, for Gelhardt, for Clark, and that is when Sunderland are at the best. And it's probably an early thing to say this, and probably a brave thing to say, but if Sunderland do defend well, you could easily see us going there winning 3, maybe 4-0, because of how much space there should be with Luton having to come forward.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the teams they have to come and attack us. That's the point. They really do, and that, I think, that plays perfectly into our hands. Yes, it's going to be tight affair. It's going to be slightly cagey. Who's going to sort of blink first? But we only know one way to play, and that is to get at teams. Get the ball to Diallo, to Roberts, to Clark, and the supporting players. And can we, like I say, even if we nick an early goal, yes, these are all, conjecture, but these are the way these games play out, especially away from home. They have to come out at us. That's perfect. If they were winning and they had to sit in and we had to attack, I'd be less confident. But they have to come out and attack us, and we manage games brilliantly. It sounds really, really weird, but the way the defense played, it was just unreal for a team that's not even full of defenders. Huggins came on and just slotted in. Obviously Gooch, unorthodox at left back. Even Clark. Yes, I know you was probably slightly critical of him, a second ago, saying, and didn't have the best game, but I think he did a lot of the shit work. By hanging back, because we knew Roberts would go forward with Ahmad, and they would be the key sometimes. So they know to do the donkey work and the way the game's going. So like I say, you've got to manage the game, pick your moments. Have we got the quality to win? Of course we have. But it's going to be a massively tough game. But I still don't see the pressure on us. Let them come at us, and can we pick them off? And if we do go through, excellent, we deserve it. If Luton managed to get at us, then, like we said before, it's been one of them seasons where we say, yeah, it's been brilliant, on to next season.
Yeah. And last but not least, Kyle, predictions for that game away to Luton, which is of course on Tuesday.
Well, it does even feel just a lot like last season, going in basically defending a 1-0 lead, and we had the propensity to score goals late, and I imagine it playing out pretty similarly. I think we're going to come out, and I think there's actually we know who the ref is for this, right? And it's a Premier League ref. It's going to be pretty good. I think that's honestly going to play a big role, because they're physical, and we're really good at getting in front of them and getting in the ball. If we can draw some fouls, kind of really frustrate them, the fans will get on top of it. But I mean, it's not, I don't think we're, had the reputation to flop or anything like that, so I think we're going to draw honest fouls. It's going to really drag it out. I'm sure they'll score one. Probably late in the first half, and then we'll pop up and let's just run it back from last season. It'll be a late cross from Jack Clark to Patrick Roberts in the box, who scores. And I draw, a 1-1 draw or any draw for that matter would be nice. I'll go 1-1, and we'll advance, and Jeez, what a season. Yeah, regardless of what happens, I mean, just what a joy this season's been, and no, while there's no pressure, I'm sure the players put pressure on themselves, but I think if we can challenge them to get a result, I think they will.
Yeah. And John, prediction for that game?
I'll say it every week, just, and I've changed it from just win to, just
Not
don't
lose.
lose. I'm not sure I'm sure that won't be the rhetoric. It'll be there, can we go there and actually get, a good result and a positive result, as in like a 1-0 or a 2-0 win, even 2-1, like say Carl was saying that they'll probably nick one. You never know. If we can cut out what actually happened, I think we did relatively well to nullify them. So yeah, I'll take a draw. I think it's going to be a scrappy game. I'll probably say 1-1. But again, we'll take that. But I'll take any result that puts us through.
Yeah. And of course, that is on Tuesday evening. I'm quite surprising, actually, considering I think the League One playoffs were on Saturday and then they don't play again until Friday. So, quick turnover, Tuesday away to Luton. We'll get a podcast out on Wednesday or Thursday to talk about that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, look ahead to the final. But there's another 90 minutes at least to be played between now and then. 2-1 lead going into it, and anything can happen. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.